Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Hello and welcome to this week's fretboard lesson. I'm Darryl Powis and today we are going to take a look at scales and how you can make them sound less like scales. One of the big problems with practicing scales on the guitar is that we end up playing them often up and down because you're trying to burn those shapes into your head. Obviously the first thing you have to do with any scale is to learn it. You have to learn where it is and where those notes are. Beyond that, how do you stop it sounding like a straight up and down scale? And how can you start practicing things early that will turn into things that sound good later on? Alright, so let's dive in and take a look. So as a standard of knowledge that you'd need to be able to do this exercise, you obviously need to know what scale you're working with. Now first things first, all my examples today are going to be using the full minor scale in A minor at position 1, and I'm using 3 notes per string. I'll give you an example here. But if you happen to know a different shape or a different way of playing that minor scale, that's also fine. Everything I'm going to say should also work with your shape as well. One small caveat is this is not the minor pentatonic. Although a lot of this stuff will work with the minor pentatonic, that's a different scale rather than this is the full minor scale. It has 2 extra notes than the minor pentatonic. Maybe something for another video. If you can play this up and down, the first place that I want to explore these scales is with rhythm. So even while you're just playing them straight up and down, all we can do to start having some variation around how we feel the scale or how we think about that scale, it's important to start thinking about the different rhythms that are possible. And music is nothing really without some kind of tempo, without some kind of rhythm. So I'm going to encourage you to get the metronome out, which I have one here, and you're going to use it not to push the speed of your playing, which is often how metronomes are used, but to play with the rhythm of your playing and to explore that side of it a little bit. So let's go take a speed of 80 beats per minute on here. All right, so I could play 1 per beat. I could play 1 and 2 and 3. Those are fairly standard so far, but also I could do triplets with this. Ya-ta-ta, 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 ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta-ta. So I can also do quarter notes. 1E and a 2E and a 3E and a 4E and a... Alright, so there's some technique implied in that, and obviously the faster you go, the better the technique has to be. But there's some tricks to working on that too. Now sticking with rhythm, those are some exercises that are especially useful if you're just getting to grips with the shape up and down. We can also take it a bit further and take a rhythmic motif or an idea and play it over a metronome. So rather than having one fixed rhythmic division, you can take what I would call a nursery rhyme rhythm. So a really simple rhythm and apply it to a scale and it will sound more interesting. First of all, I'm going to need a nursery rhyme rhythm. Let's think. Da, da, da. Okay, that's simple enough. You may be questioning which nursery rhyme I've got it from, but the idea is it's a very simple rhythm. Da, 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 da. All right. So it already sounds a bit more interesting. Okay, let's try another one. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. So coming up with these simple rhythms and then trying to apply them to the scale, still straight up and down, is already more musical. And I think when you practice scales, you kind of get what you practice long term. So if you practice those scales straight up and down with no rhythmic ideas, you will probably come improvising, play scales straight up and down with no rhythmic ideas. Cool. All right, let's move on to number 2. So number 2 is taking sequences, so sequencing these scales to come up with something a bit more interesting. So we can assign each note in the scale a number and then make a sequence on that. So if I take the first octave of it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, or 1. I can go 1, 2, 3 as a sequence, ba ba ba, and then move it up one note and play the sequence again. So 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4. So I can take 1, 2, 3 as a sequence, take that sequence, play it, and then move it up one note and play it again. So 1, 2, 3 doesn't sound any different yet. But I play 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to take the sequence of playing those 3 notes together and move it up one note along. And now play 2, 3, 4. Take the sequence of playing 3 notes in a row and move it up from its start point again. So the first start point was 1, the second start point was 2. Now I'm going to play 3, 4, 5. So 3, 4, 5. That was the start point from 3. Now I'm going to do the start point from 4. Start point from 5. The start point from 6. The start point from 7. The start point from 8 or 1 again. So you end up with these cool scale runs, and they're technically very challenging. But believe me, when it comes to playing and improvising, these sound a lot more fun, a lot more interesting than simply playing a scale up and down. And this is closer to what you find in guitar solos. So that's an example of using sequences. It's a lot more creative and it's a bit more interesting to play. So idea number 3 is to take a backing track or make a backing track of the chords yourself. I often think this is actually better than using an online backing track because sometimes they contain some funny chords. It's to make a backing track of the chords that are in the key that you're playing in and practice your scale along to those chords so you can hear how it relates. This is really good, especially when you've got slow chord changes, because you can really hear how the chords fit against that scale, and you're training your ear as you practice. So we're going to do a bit of that now, and I'll show you what practicing that looks like. So first I need to make a backing track, and the chords we have in this key were in A minor, so we could use A minor, we could use B diminished, but it's not a very stable sounding chord, so we're not going to bother basically with this one. So I'm going to make a backing track using 4 of those chords from the key, A minor, G, F and C. Let's do it, and I'm going to make those nice long chords for each one, probably 4 bars each. I just want to point out that you don't need to be doing this on a computer or on fancy software. You can do this just on your phone. You use a voice record app and you record the chords in. You don't need the drums or anything like we're doing so far. So now I'm going to play over this chord progression using that scale box. And I'm going to purposely try and demonstrate what this should sound like as an exercise. This is an exercise. This is not you playing an improvised solo. This is not about trying to sound like Slash at this point. And this is all about trying to just go, okay, do I like the sound of this note against the backing track? So this really should sound and feel like an exercise, not a finished solo or anything like that when you're doing it. And the other important thing before I start is that you don't need to rush up and down the whole scale. You can just work in small areas, in fragments, so that you can hear this. so that's what it should sound like as you're getting going, is just really slow moving through the chords. And then as you pick up some speed with it, as it becomes a bit more comfortable, you can move through faster and stop on the notes that you think sound good. So I'm going to do a little bit more of that now. The in-betweens become faster and you end up on the right note is hopefully what we're aiming for. And also, I mean, I shut my eyes a little bit there, which is maybe slightly embarrassing for filming a YouTube video. But it's useful in the exercise because we're trying to use our ears as much as possible, and also it's going to really challenge whether you know where your scale is, whichever scale you're using. All right? Alright, cool. So there you have it. I'm really a big fan of taking scales and trying to practice them in ways that you end up playing closer to how you want those scales to sound, rather than just up and down scales, getting to know the positions. Because why wait to start making some music? Have fun with it. I think this is a great time to be working on it because, as you may have noticed, I'm in a Christmas jumper because it's Christmas. And it's a good time to be thinking about long-term playing on the guitar, whether you're getting back into it or whether you're just setting some New Year's resolutions to practice more or better. So have a go at these and let me know how you get on. And if there's anything else you want to work on, just leave me a comment below and let me know. Thanks very much.